This is something that you don't show anybody. Something that's been pushed down into the crevices of your mind that you would lie about if ever questioned on. This is something that a majority of people partake in, and yet nobody seems to want to address it. Any ideas as to what it might be? Well, for some, you address it internally every night, before you go to bed, or in the morning before you get up. You address it when you're bored, or home alone, or even out in public. Still don't have an idea? I'm talking about the world of pornography. I believe that pornography has become like a tinted lens, covering our eyes to the point that most of you don't even realize what life was like before it was so widely mainstreamed. My reason for picking this topic for my speech has nothing to do with name calling or outing anybody who doesn't think like me. My reason for picking this topic for my speech is to show those closest to me just how much of an impact pornography has on the way of life that we all consider to be normal. So today I'm going to be talking about the many problems that pornography brings forward, from physical to psychological to sociological, as well as pinpointing the causes of this addiction and what we can do to help fight it. Firstly, the biggest problem with pornography today is how our society has embraced it with open arms. The government tells you things such as vaping is dangerous, right? And why? Because it hasn't been tested enough, right? Because you haven't lived long enough to see the harmful effects of it. And yet they allow pornography to be streamed despite plenty of data backing up its destructive tendencies. In an article by New York Daily News regarding pornography addiction and how it neurologically relates to drug addiction, it showed by a study done by Cambridge University 19 MRI scans on porn-addicted users. Throughout those 19 scans, all 19 showed the ventral stratum was activated when shown porn. The ventral stratum being the reward center of the brain. This reward center of the brain is also activated. Sorry about that, my screen froze. And why is this finding bad? This finding is bad because it shows us that not only is pornography an addiction like that of tobacco or alcohol, but it's an addiction that doesn't have any restricted access further than asking if you are 18 on a screen. I believe that pornography is bad because it propagates addictive tendencies and changes the way that individuals respond to their carnal desires. In an article titled Overexposed and Underprepared, The Effects of Early Exposure to Sexual Content, the author Carolyn Ross, MD, brings up a study that shows that if you begin watching pornography at 14 or younger, it raises the chance of individuals becoming sexually violent at any point in their lives, including desires for deviant material, including depictions of rape, torture, and humiliation. On top of that, by the same author, she conducted a study of 932 sex addicts in which 90% of men and 77% of women reported pornography playing a significant role in their addiction. With how widespread pornography has become, it is no wonder that it is getting into the hands of the youth, who are more than susceptible to this new sort of newfound behavior or feeling. So what causes this addiction, you might ask? Well, from an article published by Robert Weiss called The Prevalence of Porn, the average age of first exposure to pornography is 11. This number is alarming, but not expected. First off, accessing porn is extremely easy. 12% of all internet websites are pornographic. And secondly, a lot of it's free. 35% of all internet downloads are pornographic. This means more porn and more children who have their eyes on it. This means more malleable minds being shown something that their minds just aren't incapable of processing in a healthy way. Now, some people have gone out of their way to post on blogs and websites regarding the supposed health benefits of habitual masturbation. For example, in an article titled Your Brain on Masturbation by Tibby Pugh, Pugh states that masturbation to pornography alleviates stress and anxiety. She states that masturbation to pornography boosts your mood, so it's good to experience and can be used when you're in a low mood. The issue with this view is that it's very self-centered. It claims that as long as your brain is happy in the moment, there is no long-term negative effects. In another article titled Pornography Has Deeply Troubling Effects on Young People, but There Are Ways We Can Minimize the Harm by Michael Flood, he states that pornography can shift sexual interests, behaviors, and relationships. It shapes sexual scripts, providing models of behavior and guiding sexual expectations, with studies finding links between watching pornography and heterosexual anal intercourse, unsafe sex, and more. He also goes on to state that the ethics of pornography leads to sexual objectification of women, and that if we weren't to ban pornography, that we should at least implement an ethical ban on things that perpetrate violent sex. The easiest way to fight this issue is not going to be signing papers, though. It's not going to be by pushing laws. At first, this idea seems ideal because it would be considered, but this would be considered a form of censorship, which, as seen in the case of Miller versus California, couldn't take place at the pornographic scale. This is because pornography isn't actually a legal term. More broadly, it is defined as a human desire or impulse, and is protected by the First Amendment unless it meets the definition for illegal obscenity. Instead, the easiest way to fight America's porn addiction starts within yourself. Nobody is going to hold you accountable for your actions in the moment except yourself. If you or somebody you love has an addiction, the easiest way to help would be to confront individual responsibility. How can I overcome this? How can we get past this? In conclusion, our society has built a diverse expansion of addictions that it chooses to shame, glorify, or even ignore. But at the end of the day, nobody is going to be able to sway the government. So for now, the next best thing you could do would be to focus on yourself and those closest to you and offer a helping hand when needed. Today more than ever, there's an insane amount of people who are going to try to dictate your life. Hell, it really seems like even I am trying to do that right now. But if you were to take away any of what I have said into your heart, it is that you should never blame yourself for something as serious as a pornographic addiction. Because as long as the government can't censor it, the porn industry can use disgusting methods in order to lure you into an addiction.